Okay, good afternoon. It's Friday Live. I sure that you can hear me. So if you give me a moment to test my sounds. All right, welcome everybody. We are set for Friday Live. Good afternoon. If you are joining me, let me know. Good afternoon and welcome to today's edition of Friday Live. We are having an interesting conversation today. So after a few weeks, I'm not sure which of the Friday Live sessions when we talked about structure and we talked about why you need to give some allowance in the structures that you create. I believe that that Friday Live was titled over structure, over scheduling. Yes, that's the subject of that live session. It was titled Overscheduling and the Dangers of Overscheduling for Teenagers. And so some persons did ask me a question about where to, almost like I was talking about overscheduling, and then I'm also talking about the need to create unstructured time. That's where structure came about. The need not to overschedule and the need to create unstructured time and where the balance was going to be drawn. And so I had said to them that there is a fine line between structure and control. And that's how today's topic came about. We're discussing today the fine line. So we're discussing today structure and control. What's the difference? How do we find a balance? Where do we draw the line between structure and control? So I'm going to be talking to you in the next couple minutes, maybe half an hour thereabout, the power of structure and unstructured time and how you can find a balance. And I would invite you to engage in the conversation. If something strikes out for you, drop it in the comment section. If you have a question or an opinion, drop it also in the comment section. If you're joining for the replay, also let me know that you're watching a replay and welcome to the replay of today's Friday Live. I am giving something in this class. By the end of this video, I'm going to be sharing with you how you can get the template that I promised for. It's a time management template for young people, and we have used it in the academy. And so today we will be sharing an updated version of it with you for joining Friday Live. So let me know that you are here, and we will get right into it. I want us to do a little bit of work in understanding the balance between structured and unstructured time, especially as it has to do with teenagers. Especially as it has to do with Mrs. Teenager. I see you, Mrs. Funke. I just said Mrs. Teenagers. All right, I see you, Mrs. Funke. Thank you for joining the conversation. Especially as it has to do with teenagers' lives, how to implement structure and unstructured time and implement both of them in a very balanced way. You're watching from Lagos, you are welcome, and I see you, I see you, I see you. So here's a bit of a background story of two teenagers. We're going to call them, of course, not their real names, but for the purpose of this conversation, we're going to call them Kelvin and Sarah. So Kelvin wakes up every day. It's holiday season, right? And the holidays are on upon us almost here. Most of the schools are doing their exams, so the holidays will be here in about 2 weeks' time. Easter is around the corner. Yeah, but it's holidays, and Kelvin wakes up every morning. He's not very certain about what he's supposed to do in that day. So his day is a little bit scattered, a little bit of a mess. Of course, there's social media, there are video games to play, there is a random homework because there is always holiday assignments for young people to do. And then somewhere down towards the end of the day, there is a late night gaming activity with his friends, whether those friends are physical or online. So the nature of digital games, they don't have to be in the same physical space to play most of those games. So he often, at the end of the holiday period, he's still as overwhelmed, as anxious, as moody, and maybe stressed out as he was at the beginning of the holiday. On the other hand, there is my friend Sarah, who has learned a lot about structured time. And of course, we're working with the parents on that subject. And so she has every day of her holiday season structured and mapped out for her. She has a study routine, she has a scheduled downtime, because I was speaking about downtime when I talked about overscheduling and the need for including downtime in those schedules. So Sarah has a scheduled downtime, she has a scheduled family time, she has schedule for every activity within the holiday period. So let's not forget she's still a teenager, right? So there's going to be some rough edges and some bumps when it comes to implementation. But she seems to have a handle of her life and the holiday season better than this other friend of mine, Kelvin. Question is, what makes the difference between these two persons? And that's what we are going to be unpacking in today's conversation. The power of structure in a young person's life, but also why they need to have unstructured time to be able to thrive. So I'm going to begin with the second part, why they need structure. Why they need structure is where I'm going to begin with. Structure is a brain friendly tool that reduces stress and decision fatigue for your teenager. And a bit of science around the conversation of structure. The young brain or the teenage brain is still developing. I usually like to call it the emotional brain because most of your teenager's brain is the emotional brain, but it's still developing. It's not yet as logical as that of an adult, especially in the areas of impulse control and emotional regulation. You would have heard me say that emotional regulation is one of the biggest needs of your teenager, and it's one area that they are least equipped to be able to handle. And so, structure provides for that brain predictability. It provides ability to manage anxiety, reduce anxiety, and reduce stress. If you have an environment disciplinary, when you do not have predictable disciplinary plans, and I hear parents say, my teenagers know that I can just give it to them anyhow, anytime. When if they give me like this, I give them like this. It is a very unpalatable environment for your child to be, because the brain of your child needs and craves structure so that they can be able to manage. So as an adult, you can understand the amount of uncertainties that you have to deal with every day in your life. And that's why I mentioned the stuff about decision fatigue. Imagine your brain like your phone. Imagine your brain like your phone, and your phone has battery capacity of 100%, right? Now, there are different applications running on that phone, both the simple ones, the background applications, the heavy applications. Application is using the same power resource from the battery. So it is draining power from the battery. Now, all applications don't drain equal amount of power from the battery life of your phone. Imagine your brain like that phone. Every decision you have to make in a day drains an amount of power from your brain's battery life, figuratively speaking. And so, the higher the complexities in your life, the more tendency for your brain to feel overwhelmed earlier in the day or whatever time of the day, eventually by the end of the day. You find that there are a lot of human beings who are constantly running their lives on low battery. You know those who are always carrying power bank and traveling everywhere that they have to go. They need a power bank, they need extra charger, they need something. All right. Sorry about that glitch. But I was saying that there are a lot of persons who live their life on constant low battery. The same way that there are people who carry their phones about on constant low battery because there's never NEPA in their area. And so they need all of, but that's in a manner of speaking that there are human beings and you don't want that to be your teenager who has too many decisions dragging on the battery life of their brain. Creating a structure helps the young person, provides them with the ability to have a predictable lifestyle. Some of the most successful persons that you admire, I always use those examples because what you see is what you behold is what you become. There's a reason I've heard Bishop David Oyedepo talk about why he always wears a white suit, red tie attire, or white kaftan, red pockets, square attire. The reason is it reduces the amount of decision he has to make when it comes to choosing what clothes to wear on his way out. You look at the likes of your Mark Zuckerberg of this world, Steve Jobs, all of those guys, it almost looked like they had only one cloth in their wardrobe. There's a Nigerian politician, Peter Obi, that is always on black and black. It always looks like that's the only clothes they have on their wardrobe. But there's a science behind, there's a reason behind that, is that you get to a point where you want to cut down on the amount of decisions you have to make when you wake up in the morning. My mentor, Coach Wendy Ologe, will always have a predictable outfit, including a predictable hairstyle. It reduces the amount of decisions that you got to make on a daily basis. Now, take that conversation and plug it into the life of your teenager. Without structure, decision fatigue becomes a problem in your teenager's life and it drains their mental energy. It will constantly lead them to making poor choices. There's a reason why schools have school uniform. It's not just because we want everybody to dress in the same color. Is that every morning when you wake up, you don't need to stress your brain about what am I going to wear to school today. And so the more you can help a young person create predictability in their life, the better you are able to help them build sustainable outcomes. So the reason for structure, the number one reason for structure is that you want to reduce decision fatigue. You want to create predictable outcomes for your child. And so if you're going to attempt to do this, there are a few things you need to put in place. Number one is that you need to establish anchor points. There's something called anchor point, which is like some things that we can hold on to in different times of our day to know that this, like I said, that's why schools have school uniforms. That's why schools have timetables. So you go to school on a Monday morning, you know that the first lesson you have is probably mathematics, English language. It is predictable. Why is it that when your child goes to school, so many things in school are predictable, but when they come back home where they should have peace and security, they have the most chaos in the house. They have the most chaos at home. Establish for your teenager anchor point. When I teach the course on executive functioning skills, especially the part of it that has to do with tell parents that you child's assistant brain, because at a certain age, the decision-making component of that young person's brain is not fully formed, aka the prefrontal cortex. So things like fixed wake-up time. That's the reason why you need an alarm system. Things like a predictable meal time. Now, like I said, These are not cast in stone, but it's important that we have something to hold on to as an anchor point. Things like a predictable meal time, things like predictable bedtime routines. I've lost count of how many teenagers I have to work with to develop predictable bedtime routine, because everything that happens to you in the morning when you wake up started from the night before. Your day does not start in the morning. There's such a thing as the evening, and the morning was the first day. Whatever happens to you in the morning started the night before. I remember saying it in one of those live sessions, either overshadowing or the part where I dealt with downtime. And I said, if your teenager went to bed watching horror movies, no wonder they never have a restful night. But back to the conversation, help your teenagers create and establish anchor points in their calendar. That's why at the end of these conversations, I'm going to give you access to a template for time management for your teenager. I believe it's going to be of help because I've used it to help a number of young persons, and they have come up with better outcomes and better results for managing their time. Use time blocking as a tool. Time blocking is the ability to set focus time for certain activities. There is already a focus time for schoolwork. There should be a focus time for chores. There should be focus time for hobbies. Let us not be doing dishes anytime that we can do dishes, anytime that we need to do dishes. Can we create blocked time for it already? Anytime that we like, I want to go and play football. Can we create structured time? Even structured time for unstructured time. Paradoxical, right? So can we create a time? I talk about scheduling boredom into your teenager's activity. A time when we practice quiet time, a time when we practice mental awareness, a time when we practice self-awareness, activities like journaling, schedule it into your teenager's activity. So that is time blocking, where you block certain aspects. It could be your week. Let us not walk into the house and switch on the television anytime we like. Let there be a predictable. That's one of the things I say that the younger generation misses out on, because older generations had this whole thing set up for them unconsciously. When you were a child, TV did not come up until a certain time of the day. So TV will come up at 4. You know to expect those rainbow lines on your TV screen. You know to expect one national anthem. You know to expect something. It helps you with managing mental energy. But all of this chaos that has been created by multimedia, social media, instant messaging, all of that chaos, if you do not implement an intentional approach, an intentional system to put that chaos in check, it will ruin your teenager's life. Because as at where they are today, they do not have the capacity to deal with that kind of chaos. Even adults struggle with the capacity to deal with the amount of chaos that they have, let alone young people. If you are able to do this, one of the consequences of doing this, which is also something you should do independently, but it most likely will take care of itself if you do the first two things, creating anchor points and using time blocking. The third thing is that it will encourage habit formation. You don't develop habits by chance. If you want to develop reading as a habit, it's not going to happen by chance. It has to be structured into your daily activities. If you want to practice journaling, it cannot come to you by chance. Making checklists, building long-term habits, prayer habit, study habit, reading habit, walking habit, exercise habit. Name it. You have to create structures around these activities if they are important to you, and I believe they are. So you will have to intentionally. And working with young people, the challenge is If you do it today, they need some level of supervision over an extended period of time for habits to lock in. So when we created the 30-day creativity challenge, somebody asked me, why 30 days? I say because they need an extended level of time and supervision. You honestly cannot pay me 5,500 naira to sit down for 30 days and be teaching you one thing. But if I teach it to you in one day, it probably is not going to help you build the system or kick it in the first place while you now learn to maintain it. So I'm still going to throw some more conversations around why teenagers need unstructured time, because I've dealt with structure, right? So I'm going to touch on the unstructured time part. While structure helps your teenager in all the areas that I've mentioned, now when you create too much rigidity, it stifles creativity. I'll give an example of too much rigidity. Too much rigidity is why your teenager can pass exams, come out with flying colors, and not be able to solve any real life problem, and not be able to boil water, and not be able to plug in an electrical equipment and get it to work, and different other things that come in that. So if you have too much rigidity, you are going to stifle creativity, you're going to stifle independence, and you are going to stifle their ability to relieve stress. A few hours before this session, I was speaking to a parent, and we were talking about the need for encouraging independence in young people. And I said, because your ultimate goal is to raise an independent adult, you don't want to wait until the child is 18 years old before you can start having conversations and creating systems that build independence. Those systems and those conversations have to be already factored into your everyday activity. And that's where you're going to need unstructured time. Now, the whole idea around unstructured time is that this is a time when this young person has the opportunity to express their agency. It's like within this time, you are now going to decide what we will do in this time. So the school has decided that you will learn math, English, social studies, sciences, and craft from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. And we have also decided that you will do your chores at this number of hours. We created 1 hour, 2 hours where you will have control of that. It's like stewardship. It's like we have helped you manage out of 24 hours. We have created structure for 20. We give you stewardship of 4 hours, and let's see what you do with it. So you begin to train independence. They come up with their own activities. They get bored, because even inside your 20 hours that you have filled up with structure, there are times when this young person is bored and they are struggling to come up with what to do in those times. And the escape route, the very easy escape, is TikTok and Instagram. But if you have allowed this person with proper training and equipment how to manage free time, how to manage downtime, they will learn that it is not proper to have automatic escape to TikTok and Instagram whenever you have a downtime, or whenever you feel bored, or whenever you feel anxious, or whenever you don't know what next to do. That is what I call the gift of boredom. I wrote a book on that subject. The gift of boredom is that free time allows teenagers to discover themselves. The biggest thing there is about self-awareness. It's about discovering passions. It's about developing problem-solving abilities that they have. That is what I describe as the gift of boredom. If you don't have the book yet, I just needed to show you. Go get a copy of the book. It's the gift of boredom. All right. So I also mentioned there that creativity flourishes in quiet time. Creativity flourishes in boredom. There are so many stories as examples that I used here. Successful people in different fields of their endeavors who we're able to tap into that ability to practice solitude. Ability to practice solitude. A lot of breakthroughs, breakthrough ideas, things. When I was teaching a class sometime, and and we were discussing about the ability to hear from God. How do you hear from God? I remember it was Coach Wendy Olobi who once said that if your child's ability to hear from God is one of the 21st century skills you have to teach them. If you're a person of faith, I am. The ability to practice solitude, the ability to download inspiration. Because in every man, there is that ability. But you have to intentionally unlock the ability to connect with inspiration. And that can only happen when your mind is free from all the other structured activities that you have. So the structure has its place, but this other conversation around downtime has an equal place in the entire conversation. So if you have filled your teenagers' time with back-to-back activities, holidays are coming now. We're going to have like 2 or 3 weeks holidays for Easter, and you fill it up with back-to-back activities, school, music lesson, tutoring. I had a parent who was being encouraged to sign up for one of the holiday programs for the child, and she kept mentioning all the places that they have to do and all the things they have to do in different aspects of their life. And at the end of it, there is no space, even in the holiday. I say what will happen is at the end of the holiday that was created for your child to unwind and to recalibrate their focus, at the end of the holiday, that child is going back to school equally stressed, if not more stressed than they were at the beginning of the holiday. And so, in managing unstructured time, it's important for you to understand or to learn and practice to protect free time, protect your teenagers' free time. Not every moment needs to be planned. In that conversation around overscheduling, I think I mentioned that you want to plan at the most 70% of your child's time and allow 30% for eventualities. It's the same thing if you want to become a good time manager and you have an appointment for 4 p.m. and you have to have the ability to calculate how much time is going to take you from where you are to where you want to arrive. Okay? If you're always running late for every event, you have a problem with time management. If you're always running late from where you are, you have a problem with time management. So you should know how much time it takes you. If you are driving or you're going to use an Uber or some other public transport, you have to factor that into the place. So that's why unstructured time is necessary. If Google tells me that, for instance, the distance from here to my next appointment is about 30 minutes drive, if I'm driving, then 30 minutes might be enough. But if I have to do an Uber, 30 minutes cannot be enough. And so unstructured time is adding 5 minutes wait time here, 10 minutes wait time here, maybe 15 minutes traffic somewhere there. And then inside that unstructured time, I have to have an idea of what I want to use the unstructured time to do. So protect free time. Protect time. So protect free time. Okay. Then I've talked about building habits, but encourage hobbies also. It's part of the need for downtime. Let them explore, especially non-screen activities. That's what we are focusing on at the 30-day creativity challenge. It is helping them explore. We have a range of 30 non-screen activities that teenagers are going to be doing beginning from 1st of April. And 1st of April is next week Tuesday. So if you have not joined, you have. We have a series of, and when we started creating the videos this week, and when I was working with the team on it, in the initial videos, I talk about the fact that each of those activities were going to take about 10 to 15 minutes. And in the course of the production, we have seen that there are some activities that will take more than 10 to 15 minutes to do. Okay. But we have created 30 different non-screen activities for your child to engage in case they are struggling with screen time addiction. I also have a book here on overcoming screen time addiction. But whether or not they are struggling with screen time addiction, you want to help your child to build agency and the ability to do things that do not require screens, the ability to do activities. So at the end of 30 days, they're going to have like a dossier of activities that they can continue to explore for as much as they want. Because what we want to do is to habit and then let the young person take it up from there. And the possibilities are boundless, of course. Create zones in your home, create spaces in your home that are non-activity, that's non-structured zones for an example. Place where your family can hide out without TV screens, without phones. The easiest example I always use is mealtime. When you come to the dining table, can you put away your phone, daddy and mommy? That's where it begins. Because you cannot ask Junior to put away his phone and you bring your own. Put away your phones. Can we put away phones? In fact, a healthy phone habit is that you put away your phone minimum of 90 minutes before bedtime. Minimum. If you can't, you do more than that. Minimum of 90 minutes before bedtime. You should shut down your screens. If not, you're going to be struggling with sleep problems and you will need sleep therapy where you can easily solve or avoid those problems. So finally, is where do we find the balance? Where do we find the balance? The best approach to this conversation, blending structure and the right amount of flexibility. And so there are no hard and fast rules about this. Um, there's really not a balance to it, but you are going to be able to find what is essential to you per time. For instance, during school season, when school is in session, there's going to be a different approach for it. When the holidays come around, there's going to be a different approach to it. So, but keep in mind that you need to blend structure with the right amount of flexibility. There are a few things to take note of. If you want to be sure, if you want to know whether you are applying too much structure, a few things you can look out for. Your teenager is going to feel constantly stressed. They are going to feel some level of anxiety. Your teenager is probably going to manifest irritability, and it's an indication. It might be an indication that you have too much structure. Your teenager is going to feel always exhausted. They are always exhausted. They are going to lack creativity because, like I said, the brain is running on constant low battery. You need a certain amount of battery power that you can now allocate resources to apps that encourage, I'm using the digital language to explain the concept I'm trying to get across to you. But if your teenager is constantly feeling exhausted and unable to solve problems creatively, simple things that you think they should be able to do, simple things that you complain, why is this girl always wanting to do? No, 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 no. The child is overstructured or overshadowed. If they are always resisting schedule or rebelling against routines, I said in the post I made before this class that if you put too much structure, teenagers will resist it, and they are going to resist it in many different ways. Some might not come across as outright resistance, but somewhere along the line, you will see the signs that I'm talking about. On the flip side, if you have too much unstructured time, then you are going to raise somebody who is overly procrastinating and they struggle with self-discipline. When I see people who struggle with self-discipline, discipline for food, discipline over sleep, discipline over habits, all right, discipline over so many different areas, it's usually traceable to so much free time. And I've said some time ago that the most dangerous thing that can happen to young people is that they have time that they don't know what to do with. It's very dangerous, including boredom. That your teenager is bored and does not know what to do when they are bored can be one of the most dangerous things to happen to your teenager, because that's how they get into addictive behaviors. That's how they get into destructive habits. If they waste too many hours on screens, I keep talking about screens, they lack motivation. They're just wasting time. You can trace it to a lot of unstructured time. You see, you will hardly hear busy people complain that they are busy. It is idle people and lazy people that always complain of being busy. Keep that in mind. You have this young person who is always feeling aimless, constantly not knowing what to do. Meanwhile, they have a lot of time in their hands. It is because they are struggling now with structure. And what you need to do in that case is to implement structure. Implement structure. And so, how do you create a balance? As I begin to wind down this conversation, how do you create a balance? I've said use structured time flexibly. Put that another way, use structured flexibility. That's why I said create a structured time for unstructured time. Thank you, Rachel. Create structured time for unstructured time. So in that framework, you're going to allow room for adjustment. Not design all of these structures, but ensure that they are not cast in stone, and you're going to allow room for them to constantly make adjustments. Now, if you're interested in I promise something. I promise to give time management templates for teenagers. Just type in the comment section time management templates, or just say I'm interested, and maybe now or shortly after the end of this, somebody is going to respond to you with a link for you to download the template. It's a simple template that we created for helping young people manage time every day of their life. So put in the comment section that you're interested, put in the comment section time management template, and we will get that across to you. But how to create a balance? I'm talking about creating structured flexibility, making room for adjustable schedules. I use that commuting example. You're traveling from point A to point B. A wise person knows to give an allowance at point A and give an allowance at point B, so that you are always on time to all your appointments. But if you are always running late happens. But if you are always running late to all your appointments and to all your events, then there is definitely going to be a problem. And then also encourage self-directed planning. Self-directed planning is about letting your teenagers decide how they use their free time. I've said you have a responsibility to be the assistant structure brain, the assistant brain of your child, and helping them build structures in different areas of their life. But encourage self-directed planning such that when that free time comes out, they have an input into how those times are spent. And the word I used is stewardship. Encourage and teach them to better steward their time. Steward their time. That's how you're going to raise an adult who does not foolishly and aimlessly while away time. Let them use their time. What you can support with is to provide healthy boundaries around what is possible and what is not possible. I usually have this discussion when I talk about helping young people develop friendship skills. And I say you really cannot determine who becomes your child's friend, but you can determine from what environment they eventually pick their friends. You can't say this is who your friend will be and this is who your friend will not be. But if you put that child in the right environment, chances are 9 out of 10 times they'll pick the best of human beings as friends. And so you don't want to micromanage free time for your teenager, but you want to set guardrails around what is possible and what is not possible within that free time. And then you as an an adult, you as an adult, you as a parent, model balance, model that structured flexibility versus sport in your life. Don't be that kind of parent that is always running late to every activity and every appointment that they have. It shows you also have a problem and you need time management coaching. So model it for them, healthy balance of time. I use the word balance advisedly because some things must be sacrificed for you to have what is seeming to the external observer as balance. So balanced people, I've like I said, the most successful people and the people who are busiest in their life don't complain about being busy. They have just learned how to be at the right place at the right time. I know a man I admire so much. He can be in 5 to 10 different events in one day, and you wonder how did he make it to all of those places. I found the secret. He has learned how to be where he needs to be at the right time and how not to spend more than enough time in one place. So model balance. I'm speaking to you as an adult now. Model effective time management. Model managing structure versus spontaneous activities, spontaneous events, unpredictable events in your life. But above all things, let your young person be able to predict and expect a certain level of outcome from you, a certain level of response from you, and a certain level of outcome from within their environment. It helps the brain. It reduces how many things that your child can do or how many things that your child can allocate their mental energy to do. Okay, so finally, that's pretty much the conversation I want to have with you today. But finally, I'm going to mention to you again, if you have not signed up for the 30-day creativity challenge, you have a go at it again. The link will also be in the comment section. Please, guys, help me put all of these links I mentioned. The creativity challenge link and the link for the template. All right, so the links will be in the comment section. Get access to those links and let me know what you think. What does structure look like in your home? What does structure look like in your home? So I titled this conversation Structure versus Control. If you if you think you are guiding your teenager and they think that you are being an over-possessive and controlling parent, tell me about it. But sometimes the conversation lies in the ability to provide structure and flexibility as you try to juggle some of these things. The conversation, there are some other persons that are going to continue this conversation with me. I know for sure. I've seen a few of them in this live video. But what is that one change that you can make? And drop it in the comment section as well. Somebody will learn from your thoughts. Somebody will learn from your experience. What is that one small change that you can make beginning from this weekend, either to add structure or to add flexibility to your strategy? And that's it from me to you today. That's the end of Friday Live for this Friday. I will see you again in another edition of Friday Live. But until then, keep thriving and have an amazing weekend. Bye-bye.